The 1980s, one of the most interesting decades in all of human history, and especially across the world and in America. It was a very interesting time, but especially for me as a movie fan, I constantly think about all the great movies we got throughout this decade. So in this video, that is what I'm going to be taking a look at and give you my 10 favorite movies from the 1980s. At number 10, I have Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This one is a pure comedy classic, and in my opinion, the only real Thanksgiving movie. Obviously, it stars John Candy and Steve Martin, and it's a classic. It's just a classic comedy. Their chemistry was just unmatched, and it's one of the few movies where I constantly rewatch it. I notice little things here or there, and none of that, I just enjoy it more. And I always say the most important thing to tell with a comedy. Now, if the comedy, the first time you watch it, it's not funny, that just means the movie's not good. But the instance to a really great comedy is a movie you can constantly rewatch, not only the first time and make you laugh, but keeps making you laugh, whether it's at the same jokes or different jokes. And every time I watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles around the Thanksgiving time, I am always dying laughing. And at the same time, at the end, it has a very heart-touching moment, obviously with John Candy's character. And, it's just so well done. And, there's a lot of great contenders for this list, but I thought I had to include Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, an absolute comedy classic. At number 9, I have Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Another comedy classic. I am very much a big comedy guy, and well, similar to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where I talk about just, being the essence to a great comedy is how many times you rewatch it, you can still laugh. And while Ferris Bueller does that as well, I will give it the edge where it has some more iconic moments. This film is so iconic, and obviously it was the breakout role for Matthew Broderick, or at least the first role I saw him in. And it's just, like I said, very funny, and it's very 80s too, which really helps with the decade, and the iconic moments really reign supreme in this film, where you just constantly think of different moments that even before I saw the movie, there were scenes I already knew that's already ingrained in the culture. So had to include Ferris Bueller's Day Off. At number 8, I have Gremlins. Gremlins is another one that's just very iconic in the culture, especially with the 80s. But this one takes a little bit different of a route, where this is more horror comedy realm, but obviously there's a lot of things that remain very much prevalent with this film, where obviously the rules, obviously can't feed it after midnight, can't get it wet. Things that, like I said, just, are so memorable about this film, along with, I thought the cast obviously did really well. And like I said, Gizmo, the little, gremlin, was so cute, and at the same time, when they turned into the monsters, they were very, interesting to look at. But I have to give full credit to the design team designing these gremlins and stuff. They did a very good job, and once again making iconic looking characters. And yeah, like I said, the film's very 80s, has a lot of great elements to it. And in my house, this is one of the first movies in general I was shown off to, as we'll get into a lot with this list. A lot of 80s was a big decade in my house, and Gremlins was definitely one of the ones that I watched from a very young age that still resonates very well with me. At number 7, I have Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I know this actually might be a little bit of a hot take to not have Raiders higher up. But to be clear, I absolutely love, first of all, the character of Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. While it's not my favorite Indiana Jones film, which you will see later on this list, there's just so many iconic moments. The intro scene alone is incredible, and just the action throughout this film, you could tell the practicality used, and that's why the action is so memorable, and yet it's so good. In the story, obviously, I'm a sucker. I love treasure movies or adventure movies when you're looking for objects, and this is the classic franchise, Indiana Jones. And obviously Harrison Ford has a lot of iconic roles, and it depends really for you which one you are. For me, Harrison Ford was always Indiana Jones, and that was always the role he was most iconic for, in my opinion, and in my household. and for a reason, for multiple good reasons, and just that he's fantastic in the role. Everyone does a really good job, and obviously it's Steven Spielberg, which 80s, I mean, Spielberg can never really do wrong, but especially 80s Spielberg. I mean, it's just classic action film, and yeah, this film is just so iconic. And number 6 is The Karate Kid, and this is another coming-of-age story, and a very iconic one. Obviously, the Karate Kid franchise has spawned many sequels, including one that just came out this past year. And the Karate Kid is just a simple, iconic sports movie. Karate is sports, but anyways, it's a very iconic one. Obviously, Daniel LaRusso, played by Ralph Macchio. Obviously, it's the role that helped make him become more into a more recognizable name, and I mean, definitely put a lot of people into karate. But not only that too, it's just a very good story of a simple, kid moving from New Jersey to California, adjusting to the new setting, having the bully and stuff. Very simple, but yet very iconic story. And also another very 80s movie. Another movie that was played a lot in my house. At number 5, The Breakfast Club. Now, I'll admit, this was a movie that, unlike some of the others I said, I did not see for the first time until I was 15. But I will say, this movie definitely is my favorite high school movie, or whatever, kind of that genre you want to say, coming of age. Because it just hits all the right notes. Where obviously the movie is very funny. It's a very good story. It has very deep messaging. It really covers every single thing you really would like this film to cover, all spectrums. The cast is really good too. Amelia Estevez, along with other, more prominent names. Molly Ringwald, she was very big in the 80s as well. Like I said, the cast was very good. Classic John Hughes movie, which I believe this is the third John Hughes movie I already have on this list. But once again, shows how iconic he was and how important he was to the 80s. And this film, like I said, I didn't see it for the first time until I was 15, but I've already seen it at least 100 times, including when it was re-released in theaters last year. I made sure to definitely check it out. And yeah, another iconic movie. At number 4, The Goonies. The Goonies is another coming-of-age story, but regardless, it's another adventure movie, which I would definitely say adventure is my favorite genre of movie. And, we have such likable characters. And great, obviously we have a great group of kid actors that do a really good job performance-wise in the movie. And like I said, it's a treasure hunting movie. The song, I can't remember off the top of my head, the Goonies song by Cyndi Lauper was another song that was very iconic and also very 80s. But this movie is just so much fun, so much heart, and just a fun adventure. At number 3, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now, I don't know, I've seen a lot of people where some of them like Last Crusade like I do, and it's their favorite. Some of them it's their second favorite. Some people, obviously everyone likes it more than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, but regardless to the original trilogy, I've seen a lot of people where this is 1, 2, or 3. Personally, for me, I watched for the first time all 3 of these recently in order before the release of Dial of Destiny. And while I always felt like I gravitated more towards this film, my feelings were kind of more solidified after a rewatch. Like I said before, Dial of Destiny, I rewatched all 4 Indiana Jones films at the time. This one, for me, always was the funniest film. But not only that, too, I just really loved the story of finding the Holy Grail. And it was just a very compelling story. And along with the fact, obviously, Harrison Ford is still great as Indiana Jones, but I absolutely loved his chemistry with Sean Connery as his father. And those two is one of the best. They just had really good chemistry throughout the film. And, of course, you have just classic Indiana Jones against the Nazis. And it was just, once again, a well-done story. And it really should have been the point where they left off the franchise. But where the characters literally ride off into the sun. But obviously, if you've seen anything on this channel, I have my own Indiana Jones movie. So obviously, these movies both mean a lot to me and inspired me to write that. but if I were to definitely pick a favorite, it'd be Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. At number 2, I have Back to the Future. Back to the Future, God, I love this movie, but is, once again, very important to the 80s. Obviously, when you think of the 80s, and especially when you think of 80s movies, Back to the Future it's at the top of almost everybody's mind. Michael J. Fox was one of my favorite actors. It's crazy to imagine a world where he's not, Marty McFly, but even though that was almost a possibility, but he is Marty McFly. Michael J. Fox just gives it his all in his performance, and especially after watching his documentary still, it's crazy to see how he, first of all, was able to even film this movie, but give as great of a performance as he did. Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thomas, Crispin Glover, everybody from the whole cast, top to bottom, does absolutely fantastic in the role. Robert Zemeckis, I know he's done a lot of great films that I enjoy as well, but easily his best work, and this film just is another film of mine that this was one of the first movies I ever saw and have watched, can't even tell you how many times, but recently too, it recently had a re-release, and somehow I found myself loving this film even more after watching it for the first time on the big screen, which, by the way, I would recommend. And if you haven't seen Back to the Future, if they ever do release it again, see it on the big screen. But another iconic film with a great score by Alan Silvestri and, Huey Lewis in the News. Obviously, he had a couple songs in the movie as well. So many great things about this film. And in my opinion, it is one of the most, in my opinion, there's a few movies, in my opinion, that would get the perfect 10 out of 10 score. Back to the Future is one of them, and so is our number 1. But our number 1 is Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, for me, is one of the rare films where I feel like it hits a little bit of every genre. And that's why I feel like this movie is, could be really loved by everyone who, depending on what you like. If you like comedies, obviously this is Bill Murray at his best, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, everybody in this film. This is them at their best comedy. Ivan Reitman, too, his best film. If you like horror, obviously it's not overly horror, but I would say there are plenty of horror moments, including the opening scene, which still gives me chills to this day. So, the horror's there, the comedy's there. It's got a great story. Obviously Sigourney Weaver, too. Fantastic in the film. Really, this film has so many things going for it. It is another film of mine that is one of the core movie memories I have of watching this as a kid. I luckily got to see it earlier this year in its re-release, which I recommend also doing. And this movie it's hard to just imagine everything for this movie had to go right for it to be perfect. The cast and everything, the story. But they got it, and they nailed it. And like I said with the previous entry, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, in my opinion, is one of the few movies I've seen where I find it hard to change a thing about the movie, that I believe it is as perfect as it can get. I love this movie, and I love the decade of the 80s. And as I said, number 1 is Ghostbusters. And that's going to do it for today's video. If you like the video, please give it a like and subscribe. Comment down below, what is your favorite 80s movie? I know the 10 I mentioned, you can put in a completely different order, and you can even include some other ones I didn't mention. It's a great decade with a lot of great movies, so please let me know your top 10 and your favorite down in the comments. And I said, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, Indiana Jones fan of any other franchise, I've done some movie pitches on my YouTube channel, The Movie Talk, along with my TikTok, The Movie Talk, as well. If you're interested in learning about my idea on some of these popular franchises, you can check me out on, like I said, YouTube and TikTok at The Movie Talk. And I'll see you in the next video.